Hello and welcome to Piano and Keyboard Artist, where we discuss the artists related to pianos, keyboards and synthesizers. And continuing with my Depeche Mode album review series, this is Violator Part 8. Welcome to the most in-depth Depeche Mode album review series ever conducted by an independent YouTuber. This series leaves no stone unturned. We go into intricate detail covering all Depeche Mode's albums. Starting off with Speak and Spell, we will work our way through to the latest album, Spirit, and we cover everything from the songs, the structure, with interviews with the original producers, including the photographer Brian Griffin, engineers, mastering engineers, and a whole lot more. So if you're a Depeche Mode fan, this is definitely the channel to be, so please subscribe. And this is the part of the video where I give a shout out to our sponsor. There is no sponsor for this video, and therefore I would like to bring your attention to the VG Academy. The VG Academy gives you the opportunity to be mentored or coached by me personally. I now have students from all across the world, and many of them are learning various things, everything from music production, and a lot of them are learning how to play the keyboard and piano without ever having played before. Many of my students are having a lot of success with the layman's piano method, and this is the method I used to teach myself how to play keyboards and piano absolutely from scratch without being able to read music at all. To see the full range of modules which are available, simply log on to vaughngeorge.com or contact me via the link in the description below, and time permitting, I'll be happy to help. Right, let's jump into today's video. Reach out and touch faith. What a track. I mean, in fact, what an album. I always hail this as sonic perfection. Yeah, I know technically and critically speaking there's no such thing as perfection, but this is the album by which all other electronic albums are measured. And you know my feelings on this record, and this record has a very special place in my heart. But here's a very unpopular opinion, which may shock quite a few of you. I've often said that when I listen to Violator, I never sort of listen to one track at a time. This is one of the albums, when I listen to it, I always try to listen to the whole thing. I never have it on in the background. When I'm listening to this record, I'm fully engaged, usually with a glass of red wine or something. And I like to listen to it very loudly, on vinyl, with my glass of red wine, from beginning to end. But if I'm listening to it on CD or digitally, which is not often, I find that Personal Jesus is the track that I tend to skip the most. Oh my God, did he just say that? Yes. Now, once again, when I listen to this album, I usually listen to it from beginning to end, because it's a journey, and this is what I love about ownership of physical products, is it's a journey. As an artist, when you produce a body of work, it is a journey. And when artists produce vinyls, CDs, or albums, there is a lot of intention and detail put into the track listing, because you don't just come up with 10 songs and just throw them on. And this I always hail as a classic example of how the journey is just brilliant. The way it starts, let me take you on a trip around the world and back, and ends off in clean, ends off with clean. So without getting off topic, when I listen to this, I tend to listen to the whole album. But I have found for some reason that when I do, or if I do skip a track, Personal Jesus, for some reason, is the track that gets skipped the most. Now, I don't know why that is, and, let me think about that, because knowing you guys, you're going to probably want a reason for that, but I don't dislike Personal Jesus. It's certainly not a bad track, but for some reason, it's just the track that I tend to skip the most, and I don't know the reason for that. I will also go on to say that Personal Jesus, to me personally, is a song that if Depeche Mode were to exclude it from their live set, it wouldn't bother me at all. You know what I mean? And that's a bit sacrilege, I suppose, to some. But Personal Jesus to Depeche Mode, it's a little bit like, excuse the reference, it's a little bit like Brown Sugar or Satisfaction to the Rolling Stones. I mean, if the Rolling Stones went up and didn't play those songs, you know, they'd be held to play. They have to play those songs. And of course, hey man, Personal Jesus was one of Depeche Mode's biggest hits ever, so they have to play it and it's expected. All I'm saying is, if Depeche Mode didn't play it and they decided to play something more obscure like Here Is the House, I'd probably be happier. Anyway, there's just a little bit of useless information for you there. But let's look at Personal Jesus. So it was released on the 29th of August 1989. God, that was about 100 years ago. And this was, I believe, the biggest selling single in Warner Brothers history. The biggest selling 7-inch, correct me if I'm wrong. But it did very, very well. Now, if you watch documentaries on Depeche Mode, they said that before this was released, they're a very cynical band. They always think things aren't going to do well, it's not going to chart. But much to their surprise, when it went out, it did become the top-selling Warner Brothers single in Warner Brothers history. The 7-inch or the 12-inch. But it charted and it did everything. Now, this record, when it came out, and this was back in those days, I wasn't a Depeche Mode fan. I only got into Depeche Mode later and then, you know, visited the back catalogue. But if I speak to the older fans and the sort of hardcore ones that were there from the beginning, a lot of them had mixed feelings of when they first heard Personal Jesus. Most fans agree that Black Celebration was a favourite, and a lot of fans were annoyed when they heard Music for the Masses because of the amount of guitars on it. But then, of course, it brought another fan base on board. So a completely separate subject. But fast forward to Violator. Remember, I've always said, and I repeat myself a lot on this channel, but Depeche Mode never ever played it safely. If you look at every record they did, the approach was always different. They wouldn't get safe. Violator is the electronic record by which all other records are measured by. And of course, in art, it's not a competition, but as a producer myself and other producers I know, and the producers I've spoken to who have worked on this record, they all have a marvelous respect for this record because it is a record unlike any other. Now, I've often said that Depeche Mode, once they released Violator, they had the whole world just looking at them going, wow. And then I personally feel that Depeche Mode did not exploit the Violator sound enough. Don't get me wrong, I love Songs of Faith and Devotion, and I can't wait till we get to that series. But I think there would have been a lot of mileage in them doing, I don't want to say Violator 2, but indeed a record that was sonically similar to Violator. But then again, I come back to my theory on this band. What made them so successful and so radical was the fact that Depeche Mode never played it safely. Let's go back to Black Celebration. Black Celebration, Martin played the demos, and Daniel Miller said, hey man, no one's going to listen to this. This is downbeat, and Martin got upset. Daniel Miller allowed them to release Black Celebration. Once again, I've said on many videos, if Depeche Mode was signed to a major label, they would have been dropped long ago. But Daniel Miller gave them the artistic freedom and flexibility to follow them, to follow their desires. And this is why Mute is such an amazing record label, and we'll get into that later. Let's fast forward all that. Depeche Mode get to Violator. They've released this masterpiece, which is, groundbreaking in every way. And then they get to Songs of Faith and Devotion. They go, okay, we're going to just change the approach. And that was a very dangerous thing to do. Okay, I'm saying this all for context, because that is indeed what happened from Black Celebration through to Music for the Masses. And then people, whether they liked Music for the Masses or not, Music for the Masses did do very well. So people kind of warmed to that sound. And then all of a sudden Violator comes. It's a lot more minimalistic sound. It's definitely very Kraftwerk influenced in its vibe, and the fact that it has minimal parts and things like that, but also a real sort of emphasis on guitars. And we give full credit to Flood, the producer, Mark Ellis, who basically said in the the preliminary production meeting with them, when he heard their ideas of you never use the same sound twice, you don't use guitars. Flood basically said, well, with respect, your preconceived ideas are crap. We can't discredit guitars. Guitars are one of the most expressive musical instruments known to mankind. So I'm a huge guitar fan. So it made sense incorporating the guitar in. And hence the reason when Personal Jesus came out, people went, oh my God, this is Depeche Mode, but as we've never heard them before. And then once again, as we always see, the typical hardcore Depeche Mode fans went, oh wait man, we're not having this, keyboards, yeah, up yours to guitars, we want keyboards. Yeah, but with that, it brought new fans on board. This track is incredibly radical. Just its feel, it's quite monotonous with a it's got that monotonousness, if there is such a word, where it's kind of very simple, but a real sort of earworm. It kind of gets into your psyche and under your skin. And then just as it's starting to get a little bit monotonous, the chords change. And we will deconstruct it now on the piano later on in this video. This track, Personal Jesus, did indeed announce itself as, here's Depeche Mode, we're back, but here we are in a way that you've never heard us before. And that is hence the reason why some of the hardcore fans were very sort of not ready for it. And it brought other people on board who were sort of anti-Depeche Mode. So Depeche Mode had now gotten to the point in their career where they, no one was laughing at them anymore. We're not a teeny bop band, we are serious. And Violator is the top-selling Depeche Mode album. I believe it sold over 6 million copies. Well, it's probably more by now, but I heard it sold over 6 million copies in a documentary about 15, 16 years ago, so it's probably a lot more. But this is their most popular record to date, and indeed Personal Jesus is probably one of their biggest selling singles, hence the reason why it's obviously played at every single show. It's usually just at the beginning of the encore, or it's the final song, but it's usually one of these showstoppers. It's a great song, but for some reason I always more than often I end up skipping it on the album. But anyway, just a little bit more information on this record. The music video, I remember, was very, very, hey man, if you've been on the Depeche Mode journey with me, you can probably remember where you were, the first time you saw this video and heard it. But the video was awesome, and it was filmed in that very grainy, is it called Super 8? It was meant to look very grainy. And I remember watching it when I was younger and thinking, oh my God, this looks really cheap. Of course, at the time, I didn't understand that was the vibe they were going for. I absolutely get it now. And I think also when I was younger, I could never understand why Depeche Mode's music videos always looked so low budget. But of course, I absolutely get it now. The video was great. It was filmed in an old Spanish town. Actually get my details here. It was filmed in the Tabernas Desert of Elmira in Spain. So it was filmed in like a ranch, and it's basically suggested in this that it's a brothel. Martin, you kinky bastard. And of course, at the time when I saw it, I didn't really, catch what was going on. I was too young, or naive. But of course, you look at it now and you can see all the innuendos and the ambiguity and just something that really made me laugh. In my channel here, I received a comment a few months ago from one of my subscribers who said that the ladies in the Personal Jesus video, one of them is his grandmother. And when I heard that kind of blew my mind, because I was thinking, oh my God. You look at that video and you look at these ladies, to think that they are now grandmothers now. So But then again, in southeast London, where I live, some women are grandmothers from the age of 25. But that's another story. Moving swiftly on, yeah, loved the music video. And of course, there's that sort of behind-the-scenes story where you see Fletch on a rocking horse. And I think the band did take the piss out of Fletch a lot. I think Fletch did often... He was often the butt end of jokes in the band. And when they said to Fletch, yeah, you know, today is an important day, you're going to be riding this big horse. He's a friendly horse, but he's very big. And as Fletch said, it really, really scared me. And when they got to the set, it wasn't a horse, it was a rocking horse. And as Fletch said, yeah, it really did upset my day. Fletcher! Ah, we love you, Fletch. The clapping hands clap all they can. Everything counts in large amount. Oh, I've missed this Depeche Mode album review series, haven't you? But anyway, right, so that is... I mean, there is a lot more detail we can go into. I just wanted to give you some of my thoughts and insight. And now I'm going to break down the structure of this song. We all know that Martin Gore's got a very soft spot in his heart for country music, and if you listen to country music, even if you're not a country music fan, of course rock and roll has a lot of its roots in blues and country. And Martin Gore does have very, very eclectic taste. In fact, if you listen to the demo of Enjoy the Silence, you can hear this kind of country and western vibe coming through in that. But that's another story. That country and western sort of feel really comes through strongly in Personal Jesus as well. And that is why just the vibe and that riff, and it, even if you didn't see a video to it, it sounds hot and sweaty. You know, it sounds like a desert. And that is why Anton Corbijn, in his brilliance, was very good at marrying the visuals to the sound. And that is why I think that music video to Personal Jesus goes so perfectly, because you can just feel the heat in it. And indeed, when you hear the record, it just sounds really hot and down. Visually and musically, that video go perfectly together. So looking at the structure of Personal Jesus, the riff is very, very simple. It's almost to the point of where it's a little bit monotonous. But just as it's starting to get monotonous, you get the chord changes. And it's got really, really good chord changes. I really, really do like it. And once again, in this channel, I like to always strip things down to the piano, because then that helps you to just focus on the fundamental structure and the chords and the melody without being distracted by all the glorious synthesizer sounds. But let's look at the structure. It's just starting off with a... Now, remember when this song is played live, Martin is on the guitar. Back in the day, Alan Wilder would be playing the drums. These days, you've got Aigner on the drums and Gordino. So, but let's look back at the sort of classical Depeche Mode period, because these are the sounds I have from that period. You'd have Martin on guitar, Dave singing, obviously, Alan Wilder on the drums, and of course you'd have Fletch manning the keyboards by himself. So what I have here is Fletcher's keyboard bank. So let's run through the keyboard chromatically and see what sounds are on Mr. Fletcher's keyboard here. Starting off with the bottom C note.
The Lord Jesus Christ himself. The Lord Jesus Christ himself. The Lord Jesus Christ himself.
It's a preacher. Now do yourself a favor, and in the description below I want you to watch the video I did where I interviewed Pino Pescatola. Amico, ciao, grazie. He was one of the best interviews I've had. That interview resonated so well with the community, and Pino Pescatola was one of the engineers on the production of Violator. And in fact, do yourself a favor and watch that video, because I was amazed by his recollection, his recall, and how he remembered such intricate details. Pino, I love you, man, and we're coming back for a second interview. Pino goes on to say that I believe Francois Kevorkian, when he was doing one of the remixes, one of the extended versions for Personal Jesus, he was looking for samples of a preacher, things like
the Lord Jesus Christ himself.
I'm not crazy anymore.
You know, real sort of like evangelist preacher type stuff. And remember, this was 1989, and you know, this wasn't like today where you can just go online and you can download a sample. So apparently, and you will get the details if you watch that video, Francois had to get on the phone to a friend of his in New York, I believe, and this friend had a cassette with some preacher on it, and he had to actually post the cassette, so they had to wait 4 or 5 days for that cassette to get there, and then they took those samples from the cassette, and these are the samples. You hear these samples. Go and watch Depeche Mode live in any of the YouTube videos, and you will hear this.
The Lord Jesus Christ himself.
Usually at the end when Martin's doing his kind of solo, and you've got that sort of instrumental, that heavy electronic part. And then you'll see Fletch go.
The Lord Jesus Christ himself.
So Fletcher's parts on this are very simple. He just has to...
The Lord Jesus Christ himself.
Because the Bible's the truth.
I'm not crazy anymore.
Tell me what you learned about God.
Listen to me. Personal Jesus. Personal Jesus. Personal Jesus.
Okay, so those are nothing there. But, I mean, these are not important parts. I mean, what I mean by that is these parts...
The Lord Jesus Christ himself.
...are not as important as... They're not as important as that part. So this is what I call... Those are what I obviously call signature parts. But this is just what I call a bit of spice and flavor. And listen to the live performances if you can hear these samples.
The Lord Jesus Christ himself.
Next one.
Because the Bible's the truth.
The next one.
I'm not crazy anymore.
Tell me what you learned about God's love.
Listen to me. Personal Jesus. Personal Jesus. Personal Jesus.
I've never heard that one, but it's great.
Personal Jesus.
Okay, then over here, remember these are Fletcher's sound banks. There's nothing here. This just chromatic. We're just going chromatically up the keyboard. Oh, here we go. So here's the... So once again, I don't know why we've got those notes in there, because we only need this one and that one. So that's how it starts. Reach out, touch faith. Let's have a look at some of the other parts. Nothing there. That's nothing. Oh, there we go. There's that part. And nothing there. So really, fundamentally, all Fletch has to do on this track is start it off by going, and then reach, and then you've got that reverse sound. I believe that would be on the backing track. Reach out, touch faith. Your own personal Jesus. Someone to hear your prayers. Someone who cares. And really good, typical Martin Gore chord progressions. Remember, I've coined the phrase agorism, and agorism is, once again, Martin always introduces a chord in his sequence of melodies where something just hits you from the left field, and that is, if you've been watching my channel, you will know what I mean. But there are gorisms in this as well. So the song starts off with the chorus. It's your own personal Jesus, someone to hear your prayers, someone who cares. Guys, if I get the words wrong, just go easy on me, please. It's hard to concentrate and play at the same time. Your own personal Jesus. Someone to hear your prayers. Someone who cares. Yep, we know it. So it is fundamentally quite monotonous. Not in a bad way, but it's... I wouldn't say monotonous is probably not the word. It's a little bit, I would say, trance-like. You know, like if you get trance music, and there's no comparison here, is where something is repeated very often, almost like a mantra. That, you know, that's how you get into a hypnotic state, is when something is repeated. And it does have this kind of hypnotic, kind of repeating quality. And just as it's starting to get a little bit monotonous, the chords change. So it's feeling unknown and you're all alone, flesh and bone by the telephone, Lift up the receiver, I'll make you a believer. Take second best, put me to the test. Things in your chest you need to confess. I will deliver, you know, I'm a forgiver. That's exactly the same part. And all Fletch is doing throughout this track is obviously following the song and having to go reach out, touch faith. And of course, when we get to the reach out, touch faith. So once again, simple parts that Fletch plays, but I've often said when parts are simple, that's when you got to concentrate, because those parts are so iconic. If he doesn't play them on cue, you will notice. Right, so I'll just sketch out the shell chords here quickly. Shell chords meaning just the basic structure, and that's. Feeling unknown and you're all alone, flesh and bone by the telephone. Lift up the receiver, I'll make you a believer. Take second best, put me to the test. Things on your chest you need to confess. I will deliver, you know I'm a forgiver. Yeah, we get the reach out, touch faith. And here's a classic gorism when we get to this part here. Reach out, touch faith. Because it's reach out, touch faith, and the chords are going. Can you hear? That clashes. It's a gorism. Remember? That's not in agorism is a phrase that we've come up with, so it's not in the music textbook of musicology. You see, so once again, it gets quite hypnotic just on that, just on the C sharp, on the F sharp, but then it breaks down to it resolves, so it goes. Feeling unknown and you're all alone, flesh and bone by the telephone. Lift up the receiver, I'll make you a believer. Take second best, put me to the test. Things on your chest you need to confess. I will deliver, you know I'm a forgiver. There we go. Reach out, touch faith. Come on, Fletch. Reach out, touch faith. So as you see, you know, this can be played on a piano. Anything can be played on a piano, but this is really I don't want to say it's not a piano-friendly song. It's just dum dum. You will see when I get to the next part, which is Halo, how beautifully melodically that's, you know, how beautifully melodically that sounds on a piano. But hey, man, personal Jesus, what can we say? It is definitely a masterpiece as far as if you listen to the hands and feet mix. Listen to that stomping. The stomping on that is amazing. Once again, check out that interview I did with Pino Pescatola, where he talks about how that stomping, how that was recorded at so many different microphone angles. They recorded it was stomping on flight cases, like dum dum dum. They would on flight cases, and then they would stomp on them with their feet, and then they would put those flight cases at the bottom of a stairwell with microphones at the top of the stairwells, and they would play that dum 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 on those flight cases. So that is stomping on flight cases and recorded from different angles, different distances, different mic distances, once again paying homage to the sort of Gareth Jones acoustic spaces, you know, recording things. And remember that very often it is not only the sound, but it is the space in between the sounds, and it is the air. And it's almost like in art when you have a painting. It's the spaces in between the colors and things, and that's exactly the same with music production. And hey, man, I'm going to get carried away here, but the recording of the stomp box, you know, the stomping on the flight cases that they stomp, it's amazing. Watch that video; it's just mind blowing. And while you're at that, also check out part 4 in this series where we talk all about the B-sides, and I go into songs like Dangerous and all the B-sides from Violator, because Violator did spawn some fantastic B-sides. And while we're on that, look in the link in the description below and you will see the complete playlist of all the episodes I've done in my Depeche Mode album review series. They are all there for you to see. Now, once we come to the end of this, that's not to say we won't go back to some of the songs and go into more detail, because you will notice that the current episodes are a lot more detailed than, you know, the early episodes when I started back in Speak and Spell. And that's obviously because I'm becoming better at what I do and learning more about what you guys want. And hey man, it's a blast. So let's just cap it right there. I'm really enjoying talking about Depeche Mode again. I know we've taken a little bit of a break because I just wanted you guys to catch up with some of the older content. So now it's up to you, my friends. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think of Personal Jesus? Is it also a song that you tend to skip a lot when you're listening to it or not? You know, where does this song sit on the Violator record? Is it one of your favorites? Is it one of your least favorites? Or do you not have a favorite? Some people say it's impossible to choose a favorite on Violator because, once again, you know, as I say, I don't listen to Violator in songs. I always listen to it as a complete whole body of work. My friends, I appreciate your support. Hit that subscribe button. There is also a Vaughn George Facebook group which you can join if you want to get some in-depth discussion regarding the videos on this content. Thank you so much for all your support. Lots of love, and I will see you on the next part of the Depeche Mode album review series. Be safe. Adios.